Hi, is this the Borg? Oh, we'd love it if you could come to Earth and colonize us. Star Trek has been important to me my entire life. This is a franchise that introduced me to Shakespeare.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more
And fabulous bouffant hairstyles. Star Trek has also frustrated me ever since J.J. Abrams took it over and turned it into a big, dumb action franchise. With the exception of Chris Hemsworth's moving portrayal of George Kirk, the entire Kelvin timeline was just not Star Trek. In the recent era, shows like Discovery, Strange New Worlds, and now Starfleet Academy are like antimatter colliding with matter. This new anti-Star Trek is gobbling up the franchise in a way that's deleting it from our culture, and it just...
Patuck!
Sorry, I usually try to avoid swearing on this show. Star Trek is supposed to use space travel as a metaphor for exploring the human condition. New Trek is about crying, emotions, identity politics, potty mouth, and Gen Z slang. Like I said, it's anti-Star Trek. The first thing I noticed in previews for Starfleet Academy was the size of the cast, and I do not mean the numbers, because Star Trek has always been about a large ensemble. I mean the extremely poor physical fitness of large chunks of the cast. And before anybody jumps all over me like, you're fat shaming, just know I'm not going to engage with those bad faith arguments. Starfleet is a more or less military organization. Physical fitness is essential to performing all kinds of tasks in situations that are frequently life-threatening. If you can't run, climb, jump, or punch a Gorn, you do not belong in Starfleet. Look me in the face and tell me this chick could fit in a Jeffries tube. Skipping past the part where there's no such thing as a female Jem'Hadar, look me in the face and tell me that someone totally committed to a warrior's way of life at a genetic level would allow themselves to be compromised by poor physical fitness. There's a brand new hologram who has enrolled in Starfleet Academy, and she's a dummy because she hasn't learned anything yet. After all, it's not like you'd program holograms to be fully functional when they're activated. There's a Klingon who doesn't care about honor or battle. He's more into birdwatching. His name is Jaden. Yeah, they named the black Klingon Jaden, and he doesn't have a dad. Star Trek is supposed to be against racist stereotypes. Never mind that if Jaden actually was raised by a single Klingon mom, he'd be the scariest guy in the entire Academy. I'm gonna need so much Romulan ale to get through this. Tig Notaro's character has been unprofessional and disrespectful during her entire time in the Star Trek universe, and she is the last person who should be mentoring cadets on how to behave. The only place I can think of that she might fit into Star Trek is as a bitter and jaded waitress in Quark's bar. This series starts at a time when the Federation has been defunct for 150 years and Starfleet is reopening the Academy. I've heard a report that producers were going for sort of a Hogwarts meets Star Trek kind of feel, but what they ended up with is Dawson's Creek in space, but with fewer hot chicks. Starfleet must have really been scraping the bottom of the barrel because they picked Holly Hunter's character to lead the reformed Academy. She's emotional and allows her personal side quest to reunite a kid with his mother to compromise her primary duties. She's also a total slob who walks around barefoot while on duty. That is nastier than a plate of dead gugh. This chick needs to be hauled in front of an admiral and be told to sort out her priorities. She also needs to be introduced to an ancient piece of technology known as a hairbrush. Lots of people are saying that Star Trek is dead. It's not. This is just an evil Star Trek from an alternate universe, which would make a great Star Trek episode. The most striking thing about Starfleet Academy is that there's almost nothing to analyze. In a regular Star Trek series, you're going to have a cast of characters who are all extremely distinctive and have very strong personalities, but are all competent, driven professionals. This show is full of hyper-emotional young adults who don't seem to understand the responsibilities that they've taken on at all. The plot of the pilot episode was so simple that there's no point in me even analyzing it. There's a bad guy, he damages the ship, they have to figure out how to fix the ship. There's no moral, ethical, or scientific quandaries to explore, and that's what tells me that this show is made by people who just don't understand what Star Trek really is, and that is a platform for nerds to argue. They took away our ability to have any sort of analytical discussion, and even Q wouldn't be that cruel. The real Star Trek existed from 1966 to 2005, which was a fantastic run, and it'll always be there for you and your kids. You can introduce your own little cadets to shows that'll encourage them to think about complex political issues, get to know characters that'll inspire them to be better, wiser, and more thoughtful people, and introduce them to Shakespeare. I've previously talked about how Star Trek was the starting point for my own lifelong love of Shakespeare, so you can check out that episode if you want some ideas for how to get started. I'm just going to keep paying attention to classic Trek and ignore this new garbage, which needs to boldly go into the wormhole and be shot into the Gamma Quadrant, never to return.